The first thing you have to do to set up the Raspberry Pi is take the SD card and plug it into the slot at the bottom of the Raspberry Pi. The card only goes in one way, so remember to put it in the correct way. The heat sinks have to be placed on the two black squares on the Raspberry Pi, called microprocessors. To attach them, first peel off the blue tape on the smaller heatsink and place it on to the small microprocessor on the left. Do the same for the bigger heatsink and place it on the bigger microprocessor on the right. To connect your keyboard and mouse to your Raspberry Pi, plug in the USB end of your keyboard and your mouse into the USB ports on the Raspberry Pi. Finally, we have to connect our monitor to our Raspberry Pi. If you have an HDMI port in your monitor, then you can go ahead and use the HDMI cable and plug one end into your monitor and the other end to your Raspberry Pi. However, I do not have an HDMI port in my monitor, so I use an HDMI to VGA adapter. The HDMI side goes into the HDMI port on your Raspberry Pi. Then you take a VGA cable and plug one end into the other end of the adapter, and the other end of the cable goes into the VGA port in your monitor. Finally, we have to plug in our micro USB power supply into the micro USB power port to the left of the HDMI port. Once your power supply is plugged in, your Raspberry Pi will start loading up, and your screen should look like this. The first thing you do is change the language from English UK to English US, so your keyboard works normally. Then you click on the check mark next to RASPBIAN, the program needed for our projects, and click Install to download it. Then click Yes on the screen. RASPBIAN will begin installing. Once RASPBIAN has finished installing, click OK in the middle of your screen. Your screen should look like this as the Raspberry Pi starts loading. Finally, your screen should look like this. Our first project will be to browse the internet. To do this, you have to connect to Wi-Fi. Go over to the two red X's in the top right corner and click on it. You can see all your Wi-Fi connections. Use the one you usually use at home. In this case, I use Gateway. It'll ask you for your password. Go ahead and type it in. As you can see, my Wi-Fi is connected, as there is a full bar blue signal on the right where the red X's used to be. Now we can go browse the internet. Click on the blue circle on the left. Chrome will automatically open up. From here you can go to any website you want. In this case, I'll just go to Google. As you can see, Google pops up. From here you can continue browsing. If you do not have Wi-Fi, you can use an Ethernet cable. You plug in one end into the Ethernet port on your Raspberry Pi, and you plug the other end into your router. This enables you to use the internet without connecting to Wi-Fi. Our last project for this video will be coding with the Raspberry Pi. To do this, go to the Raspberry Pi icon in the top left corner. Click on it, and then go down to Programming. You can see all the pre-installed programming languages on the Pi, including Python 2 idle and Python 3 idle. For this series of videos, we will be using Python 3 idle, so go ahead and double-click on that. This will open up the Python 3 shell. To go to the code editor, click File, New File, and the code editor pops up. The shell is where the results of your code will be shown. I'll give you a quick example. I'm going to type up and run a print statement that says, I just booted up my Raspberry Pi. To run, go to Run and click Run Module or F5. You have to save before running. As you can see, the results are shown on the shell. This concludes the setting up and powering up the Raspberry Pi video. Our next video will be about displaying blinking lights with the Raspberry Pi.